friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks Workshop. I'm dressed like this because I'm working over on the dark side and it's a lot colder over there. In fact, it's probably only in the 40s over there, if that. And I'm working with all that metal and it's cold. Don't you feel sorry for me? I broke something on my Bobcat and it's a vital component. They tell me the part is not available. It's not actually a Bobcat part. It's a part that I used on the Grapple bucket. And, at least according to the couple of shops that we went to in Rosa, they can't get this kind of part. So I got a similar part and I'm going to adapt it to make it the same. Here's the part that broke. And you can see there that it's like a coupling and this spins and one hose goes in here and this goes into the cylinder. Well, this piece came out of there because this broke in two. This came off the end of it. Ordinarily, this would be on the end here, like something like that. So then this part goes around that. I can't show it all to you. That would make sense. If I put this part inside here, then put it back together, that's how it actually goes. And you can see then that there's a tiny little hole in that, and it's a restrictor plate. Well, here's the replacement part, and it's almost the same thing, except that the hole is gigantic. Well, I need it to be small because this particular grapple bucket on the Bobcat operates really fast even with this little tiny hole. And if it's operating crazy fast, it really goes fast with this little tiny hole, you can imagine how fast it will go with that great big hole. So I'm going to make an adapter to slip down in there and hopefully make this work. I don't even know if it's possible. I'm just going to give it a shot. And I'm going to adapt it to that little tiny hole. Now we're going to go over to the dark side and get started. Okay, my friends, I have a piece of brass chucked in right here that is a little bigger than I need. I'm going to turn this down to the inner diameter of that large opening of that. So in other words, I'm going to be able to slide this into the large opening is what I'm planning to do. And then I'll have a larger cap on it and drill a hole through the whole thing. First thing I'm going to do is face off the end so the end is nice and clean and square. That's nice and flat and square now. Now I'm going to just arbitrarily take off some. It doesn't really matter as long as I don't get it too long. I'm going to make it about a ½ inch long, and I got to go down to 320 thousandths of an inch. I'm going to double check just to make sure that it won't be too long, because I don't want to get it too long and screw up everything. That's probably just about the right length. It's just by eye, but that's probably good enough. And then I just need to take off 320 down to 320 thousandths, and that is at 500 thousandths, right on the money. So we've got a long ways to go. Okay, we're at 440 thousandths and we need to go down to 320, so we got over 100 thousandths to go. Alright, we're getting close. Alright, we're at 415 thousandths. We need to go down to 320. So that's almost 100 thousandths still. So I'm going to go ahead and dial in another 15 thousandths, which it's actually taken off 30 thousandths because I'm 15 thousandths per side. Okay, let's just check that again. Okay, we're at 384. I want to go down to, so if I take off another 60 thousandths, we should be at 324. I don't know if I'm brave enough to do that, but I'll get real close. Well, this should be real close, but it probably is going to still be a little bit to go yet. Yeah, we're around 342, so if I take off 11 thousandths, I'll just dial in 10. All right, I'm going to dial in a little bit less than that because I think I might have moved something. 336 or so. Let's see here. Let me double check this and see what this says I need to go to. This says 325 on this. All right, so that would mean I only need to dial in about 5 thousandths. Now, for some reason, we're still reading large. 335. All right, now we're getting close. 325, so that should fit according to this last measurement I did. I mean, it's like it would be a press fit. Okay, right now I'm not getting it in there. It doesn't seem to want to go. So it's still slightly large. You know what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm actually going to go to a file and just do a touch and go thing. It's got to be really close to going. Yeah, it's going to need a little bit more, but that's okay. I'd rather sneak up on it. I could probably press that in and force that in, and I might do that. But I think I'll take just a tiny bit more off. All right, that'll press in for sure. That'll press in. That's perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this around. Well, actually, I think I'm going to saw it off first. I'll saw it off camera. I'm going to turn it around, hold the small end in there, and then turn the bigger end down to the size I need. Okay, so there's the part now. The idea is this little part will fit down in that big hole. And I'll press it in, and you can see it's already starting to go, but it's not going to go without some force. That's okay, and that's what I want. I don't need that, I don't think, but I want that. All right, so now I'm going to turn this down so that it'll fit in the hole better and that it won't be any bigger than the bevel, because there's a bevel in here, and that bevel is what seals it. So anyway, bottom line is I'm going to turn this down. I'm going to try to measure that bevel. The bevel's a little hard to measure, to be perfectly honest with you, but I'm just going to give it my best guess just by eyeball here. I'm going to call it 440 thousandths, and I believe that'll be fine. So 440 thousandths is what I'm going to turn down this outside diameter to. Yeah, I'm right at a ½ inch, and we want to go to 440. So that's 60 thousandths to remove. That would be 30 thousandths per side. I'll just dial in 15 thousandths per side this first time. Okay, we're at about 480. So we still got 40 thousandths to go. That's 20 thousandths per side. So I'm just going to go with my 15 thousandths again. This will not be critical either, actually. I mean, the better we make it, the better I like it, but we don't have to make this exactly, this 440. Okay, we're at 450, so we only got 10 thousandths to go. So I'll take off 5 per side, and we'll call that good enough. This should be real close to 440. 439 or 38, and that's close enough. It really doesn't have to be any closer than that. The test is, will it fit inside here? And I think it will without any problem. Yeah, there's plenty of room to spare, so that's good. Yet it won't go through the hole for sure. All right, so now I'm just going to bevel this front edge and put a pretty good chamfer on it. I'll just do that by hand. I know you can't really see what I'm doing very well, and I'm sorry about that. Let's see if we can bring you over here and give you a little better shot, maybe. Okay, that should be exactly what the doctor ordered. I'm not going to take it out of there because it's centered, and now I'm going to drill the little tiny hole all the way through that. There's the little restrictor plate that you can see, I think, and the little hole. And now this drill bit should just fit it perfectly. And it does. It fits it just really tight. So I'm going to drill all the way through that part I just made. Well, quite honestly, it doesn't look like it's focusing the best, but that's okay. I'm just going to drill it, and you'll see what you see. Now, I should have center drilled this first. I know that, but I'm not going to. It's a soft material, and it's not that terribly critical. There we are, we're all the way through. It seemed to drill it very nicely, so I think we're good. There's the part we made right there. It looks really good. Let's see the mating part. And of course, until I turned the camera on, I could find that. Here it is. Just kind of push it down in there a little bit. I'm trying to decide whether I think it's going to be too long. You know, like maybe this cap part is too tall. That's a possibility, and I'm afraid to get it down in there and then hate myself because it's too tall. I think I'd be better off taking a little bit off the front of this and thinning this down a little bit. I'm afraid if I get it in there and I won't be able to get it back out very easy, and I'm afraid it might be in the way. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this off, thin it down a little bit. Once again, I doubt you can see the whole thing, but show you what I can show you. Okay, I'm going to call that good enough. Now I'm going to turn this back on a 45 again, or about like that, and go in here and put a bevel on that chamfer. You can only do what you can do, and I really think that's going to be good enough. So here we go. We'll see how that works. All right, so here we are with the part and the little insert. And because that hole goes all the way through this now, instead of just a real thin piece of metal, that may act as a better restrictor. So it may actually cause it to flow slower, which I hope it does. I don't know, maybe it's too slow now, you know. But I'm going to press this in there. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to press it in there yet. Probably very simple. I'll probably just set it on the vise and drive it in with a punch or something. Okay, I looked around for a piece of wood that would work, but I don't have one, so I'm just going to use this steel punch on top here. It's flat, and I'm going to lightly hit it. I think it's just going to go in without much trouble anyway. Pretty sure it's all the way down, but I'm going to double check it. Yep, it's down. Look at there. Kind of looks factory, don't it? And it still spins. I'm pretty sure that'll work. I hope it will. I'm glad I cut it down more. Once again, because of the sun out here, I can't tell what's in the viewfinder. It's just crazy. But I'm going to install this part. I'll show you how I install it. And you can see it. Hopefully you can see that the little brass insert's still in there. I'm going to put some Teflon tape on these threads. It's a pipe thread. And I'm going to wrap quite a bit around here so that it hopefully seals real easy. There's an art to wrapping that tape, by the way. If you wrap it the right way, it'll stay on and get tighter and tighter as you go. And if you wrap it the wrong way, it'll come off when you start turning it in there. And anyway, I know which way to do all that, so I did it. First thing I'm going to do is put the stationary side in here and snug it down on the pipe threads. It's pretty tight. I don't want to go crazy tight. Now this thread here is also pipe threads, but it's got a taper on the inside, and that taper is really what seals it, so you don't need tape on this. Now I'm just hoping that the part I made on the end doesn't screw up that taper. I don't think it will. It looks like it'll go past it, but it's really hard to say without triple checking all that. Now let's see here, I'm going to put the big one on, the big wrench on the bigger nut and the smaller wrench on the smaller nut here. It seems like it made it up real good and it's nice and snug. So we'll connect it up to the Bobcat and see if it works. Well, you know, it started out working on that part for the Grapple bucket, and that all went pretty well, I thought, although I can't test it, because when I tried to start the Bobcat, it wouldn't start. The battery was dead, or at least that's what it seemed like. So I charged the battery up. It says it's at full charge. Now, I haven't actually tested the battery, and I'm going to do that too, but it started acting like it was a bad connection, so I decided to start looking for bad connections. So I took all the battery cables off, cleaned everything, put it back on there. I also charged the battery overnight, because this is the next day by now, and the battery says full charge. So then it still wouldn't start, and so I still suspected some kind of a bad connection. Well, I started looking at this starter solenoid here, and sure enough, all the threads are completely gone off the end of it. You couldn't tighten it down anymore. Okay, so how do you fix that? Well, I don't know. I don't know if you can see how smooth it is, but right there is just stripped completely off. There's threads here. The threads should go all the way to the end. Well, they don't. So there's nothing, you can't spin anything here to put new threads on this, and of course I'll have to go down to the next size. So I've got a 3/8 24, which is a fine 3/8 thread, and I was, then I was trying to figure out how can I get it to spin in there. Well, I took the handles out of this, and I think this is just about the right size to start, but it's really not going to be easy. If this will work, I have no idea. I have to just start it by eye and try to keep it straight. And it's not going to be perfect. But it's one of those deals where either it's this or it's spending a whole bunch of money. And if you know anything about Bobcat parts, they're not cheap. So it's either this or spend a ton of money. And I'm trying to do this. And it might work. It's just not going to be simple. Fortunately, this is a soft brass, which is good and bad. It's actually probably even copper. It wouldn't surprise me. It looks like it started there, I hope. Anyway, my point is that it should thread fairly easily because it's soft material. What I'm thinking is I could put this handle in and help myself here for leverage until I get to one. Oh, it's already breaking out, I think. There's no way to know if this is really the right size for this. It's just the closest thing I've got. And so I'm just trying to make it work. I figure I got one shot at this. If this was my first rodeo on cutting threads, I don't think I'd have any shot at this. But I've done this all my life. It looks like it's trying. Unfortunately, the threads might not be very deep. So in other words, the shaft is probably a little undersized, if anything. Which, on the bright side, I guess I could go to a 5/16 if I had to. But I don't think that's a good idea. If I can keep it to 3/8, it's not really reducing the size very much. And the reason I went with the fine thread is to get a better grip in this soft material. I'll have to put spacers on here to take up the space, but I don't think that's going to be an issue either. And some people would say you need to use oil, but with this type of material, I don't think oil's anything that will help anyway. It won't hurt, I don't think, but this soft material I don't think really needs oil much. Because it's very soft, which is why it's stripped out. Somebody got down on it too hard, and I don't think that somebody was me, because I bought this Bobcat used. It's lasted a while, but it's decided that this is the problem area right here. So Here we go, and we'll see if we can fix it. It looks like it might be working. I might get lucky here. And I don't think I've ever really cut threads in copper before. Pure copper anyway. At least I don't remember doing it. I probably have, because I've done just about everything you can imagine in my life over this kind of machinery and stuff. Anyway, it seems like it's working. I had to take the handles out of this because you can't spin it. I had to do it all by hand because I can't get it in the lathe to get it straight or in a drill press or anything like that. So I had to just do it all by hand. I think I might be right back to the original threads now. And if I'm there, I can't go much further, I don't think. Let me back it off some and kind of look at it and see if I'm to the original threads. It's actually looking like pretty good threads. It looks pretty good, but I'll be honest, I just don't think those threads are going to be very strong because they're not very deep. They're pretty shallow. Here's the nut that goes on those new threads. And it goes full depth. I got one full depth, so that's pretty good. At least it's a fine thread, which should give it a little bit more oomph on the tightening. I'm going to go with that. We'll go install this and see if this works. Working, but I just thought I'd let you know that it wasn't a 5-minute deal. From the last clip, it's already been a couple hours. The Bobcat wouldn't start. Even after I put the starter back in it in the solenoid and got those threads working, all that worked, but it still didn't have enough power to turn it over. And so I put one of those battery box checker things on there, and sure enough, it showed 12.3 volts, but it still showed that it was weak. The power in the battery was still weak. So I went to town. That spends another hour, and bought a new battery and got it running, and now the thumb is working. So let's go test the thumb out up on the hill and see if we can pull some firewood off of these hillsides where they've logged this property, and so there's treetops laying everywhere, and I'm going to pull these treetops up into an accessible area where I can cut them up. Well, I think you can see that it is actually working pretty well. I'm going to drag up a huge pile of wood here, so it's going to take a while. I'll show you the pile when I'm done. Well, my apologies, my friends, but somehow or another I lost the footage of how big that pile was. Let me just say it was substantial. I think it ended up being about 5 trailer loads of wood. I would show you the pile now, but unfortunately it's already been through my wood furnace. Yeah, I burned a lot of wood. That clip was only a couple of weeks ago, and I already had a big pile of wood at the wood furnace when I piled up those logs, you understand. That wood went through the furnace, and now so has this pile of wood that you just saw. Anyway, it's just not easy being me. If you've enjoyed this video, check out some of my other videos. I've got approximately 800 videos on YouTube, most of them about building and repairing musical instruments. I'll give you a preview of an instrument that I'm building right now as we speak. Now keep in mind, this is just a goal. This is not a brag. My goal is to make this the world's finest mandolin ever built by a human. So anyway, that's just a preview of other videos that I have out there. So be sure to subscribe. Please click the thumbs up button. I would appreciate it very much. Thanks for watching.